Happy anniversary, America. This whole week, in celebration of the 250th anniversary, I've been posting daily videos sharing with you guys my kit. Now, my grandfather, fifth great-grandfather going back, I had 6 that served during the American Revolution, was a member of the Dover Light Infantry. And that's what this jacket is. Now, the hat is of the 1st Delaware. Completely different story. And we talked about my jacket, we talked about my tomahawk and its mask, we talked about my canteen and things like that. But one of the most important aspects of a soldier's kit was, especially when you think about a continental soldier, but any soldier in general, was bedding. If you don't get a good night's rest, then you're just not going to be your best. And I've always said that, whether it goes to my camp crafting or anything else. Whenever you pack up for a weekend, you really should start thinking about the end of the day instead of throughout the day or the beginning of the day, which that means you're bedding. So today we're going to talk a lot about blankets, okay? Now, there's some things that we have to address in regards to continental soldiers especially, but just material culture in general as a whole. There's something called survivor bias, which means the things, the artifacts that we see, we tend to deal with or whatever, those are the survivors. Those are the things that may have been taken care of really well, treasured, not used as hard, or things like that. It's other things, especially the minuscule things that are more mundane, day-to-day, stuff that do get used until you just can't use them anymore. Those things don't exist. So a lot of like coats, jackets, dresses, hats, things like that. Generally speaking, those were like the finer things, mostly from the middle class or wealthier class, because your common person is just going to use things until you just can't use them anymore. So sadly, when it comes to, especially from a living historical perspective, but just from a historical perspective in general, when we try to take a look at social life, especially of the common person, you know, some things are just left to best guess. I got to visit one of the most magical places here in the United States for Father's Day weekend, and that was the Henry Ford Museum. Now, Henry Ford Museum is actually kind of a complex, but they have a village, Greenfield Village, and it's so cool. One of the places I stopped at was the weaver's house, and they had various original looms there set up, and a fantastic woman who shared with me her vast amounts of knowledge on weaving. And I took up like 15 minutes of her time. Thankfully, she wasn't terribly busy when I was speaking to her. But when it comes to the 18th century and the early 19th century, when it comes to textiles, it's a lot of work. It's an awful lot of work, and it takes a lot of time. It took 4 days to set up a traditional loom. And this was like a full-size, loom that you could break down, and a barn loom, right? So during the winter months, when you have nothing else to do, everybody in the household is taking their turn at the loom to make sure that they have the cloth that they need for their blankets, for clothing, for towels, or whatever it is that they need to do. Okay, and a woman could make a little extra money to spend just from doing that kind of work. Now, the blanket I have here is certainly not 18th century. I'm not going to try to pass this off as 18th century. However, the color, the weave, the size, and the material fits within the 18th century. Okay, so this is a hand-me-down heirloom blanket from my great-grandmother, and it's made out of wool. And the color, as you can see, is like a blue and white stripe. So it's a very basic pattern. This kind of pattern would not have been difficult at all to make. So that simplicity makes it fit in within the time period, right? And the colors, a lot of people say, oh man, they just didn't have color back in the day. That's a load of crap, to be honest. There's lots of different materials that we had in the 18th and 19th centuries, and even before, that we could dye and make colorful, vibrant patterns. And again, we have textiles that demonstrate that that was a real thing. Now, we could have personalized this. Maybe we could embroider a name or initials or flowers or something like that. Again, just a taste of home that you could take with you. Now, this particular blanket is more of a summer weight wool blanket. It's not a winter weight. This would not keep me very warm in the winter whatsoever. So soldiers during the winter months, they would often go in what's called winter quarters. And this is a practice that carried on the Civil War as well. However, in the Civil War, you didn't get furlough as often in the winter unless you're an officer. During the 18th century period, though, it was more common for soldiers to go in the winter, take a break basically. They'd set up camps and guard posts, and the war's still going on, but it's a downtime for armies for obvious reasons, right? When you're talking about the cold, you're talking about water, food, transportation, lots of things like that. Now, in the Southern theater of the 18th century, during the American Revolution, the war continued throughout winter months. But if you're talking about the New England area and the northern parts of the Carolinas, like North Carolina, winter quarters was just an aspect of the warfare, okay? Now, I'm sure one of the big questions you have, did Continental soldiers have blankets issued to them? Well, it's a mixed bag, and it really just depends on the regiment or the company at any given time. Early on in the war, soldiers were primarily just taking care of themselves. This was the Minutemen or the militia type system that was established well before the American Revolution. I mean, this goes all the way back to England. Now, over here in the colonies, militia duty was pretty important, especially with the constant conflicts with Native Americans and the colonists, right? So at the war's beginning, soldiers just brought whatever that they had from home. Now, eventually, when armies started getting equipped, especially thanks to France and Spain and other European countries that didn't like the British either, when they contributed, soldiers started seeing more and more blankets and uniforms issued. Unfortunately, there's a ton of uniforms and blankets that completely rotted away in warehouses that was sent over by Spain and never got to see any type of service from any type of soldier, just because we didn't have the system in place here to get items that we had to the front lines, to the men. We didn't have that network established. Just think about that. If history was changed just a little bit, how much better we would have been, our forefathers that is, if that system was in place. How much sickness could have been avoided, or how much death. It's just unfathomable to imagine. But just goes to show how important small things are, like a blanket and having something of comfort from home, especially when I think about those soldiers who brought home blankets that was made for them by their wives, their daughters, their children, male or female, their mothers or grandmothers. You know, having that with them, that little bit of comfort in facing the world's greatest superpower, that would have been something, right? Now, how can we apply this to camping? Your trip, whether it be a camping trip, reenactment, or whatever, I encourage you to think about the end of the day instead of the middle or beginning part, because if you don't get a good night's rest, then how are you going to be able to fight off the British or anybody else for that matter? Like, you're just going to be swatting the mosquitoes with very little energy whatsoever. If you like this video, please click like, because it helps this channel. We really appreciate it, and it helps other people find it. If you have not heard about the Press and Mess Kit, well, for $200 you can secure your own Press and Mess Kit. And I just sent out an update to the Press and Mess Kit in an email to everybody who's already purchased one. And I also included the mess kit cover, the patterns that is to it. So if you are a DIY kind of person, you can make your own Press and Mess Kit cover. That was also included with some pictures. So the Press and Mess Kit, in my opinion, is the best all-around one-man mess kit. It comes with the 54-ounce stainless steel canteen, the cup, the skillet, and the plate. The best part is you take the skillet and the plate, the clamshell together, and boom, you got yourself a container or a baking vessel. So again, I think it's the coolest thing. It was invented by a guy named Guy H. Preston right before World War I in the late 19th century. Didn't get adopted by the US Army, but Officers especially purchased it privately for their use in World War I. And then after the war, Abercrombie and Fitch and other people took it up and they were buying it for the war effort or for camping or whatever it is that they want to use it for, okay? Also, we're starting a museum. Now, this museum is going to be the Smithsonian of Outdoor Recreation. And we're trying to push getting support for this museum by using the Campcrafters Guild. If you go to www.honorableoutfitters.com, there's a various list of ways that you can contribute financially. Of course, you can join the Campcrafters Guild for free, and there's aspects of the guild that would be closed off to you to make sure to reward those people who do financially contribute to the effort. But if nothing else, if you're not interested even in the Campcrafters Guild, you can help out by spreading the word. You can help out if you've got professional experience or knowledge or expertise that you can contribute. We'd appreciate it because this is another grassroots effort that we're going to try to get going. It's going to cover pre-colonization to modern time, all outdoor recreation. It's going to be awesome. And wouldn't it be cool if your name was attached to the roll of all the people that made it happen? Because it's going to happen. You know, are you going to be a part of it or not? So again, www.honorableoutfitters.com. Now, if you'd like to see video about the Press and Mess Kit and all of its glory, you can check it out here. If you'd like to see more videos about all the camp crafting gear I got, then check it out here. Happy 250th anniversary. I hope you guys have a wonderful week. Give a kiss hug to your loved ones, and I'll see you guys next time. Take care.